Hi, welcome to Stitchity Doodle. I am Gail and I have my sidekick,
Miko.
Miko's here with me. She'll be in the background doing her thing. In today's video, I have a lot of finished objects. If you watched last week's video, it is our very first podcast video, and it's also our introduction to our UFO challenge that we're doing with Teri from the Yarn Joy podcast. We are joining her in tackling our unfinished projects during the month of August. In today's video, I've got lots of finished objects to show you, mostly amigurumi. My first finished object is, I believe this is number one from my last week's video. And to finish this beanie,
she had to add a pom-pom.
It's not just adding a pom-pom. I actually had to weave in some ends, close the hat up because it was still open, and I had to sew on the button so that this can be removable. This pom-pom is actually removable, so if I wanted to wash this, I can just take it out and either hand wash it or throw it in the wash. This pattern is by MJ's Off the Hook, and it's called the Modish or Modish Mosaic hat, and I really like how it came out. I tried it on for you, but I have a bun on today, so yeah, I can't do that today. But this is project number one. Project number two, I have my car. Now, this is number two from last week's video. And in order to finish this project, I had to sew on the tires. So the tires were already crocheted. I just needed to sew them on. Let's see. I had to crochet the lights, the headlights. I didn't have that done, so I crocheted them and sewed them on. I also embroidered the handle and these things. I call them the blind spots because I don't know what to call them. But these side parts were also missing, and then the top was not completely sewn shut, so I had to do that. So this is my project number two from last week's video, and it's also my second finished object. This took me an hour to complete. This pattern is by Olga Krylova. I will have all the information that I have available, I will have listed down below in the description. My third finished object is this bee bear, and he is number three from last week's video. And the actual, how do I call it? The actual designer, I will say, is the artwork designer is Poppy Moon Design. She is an illustrator artist, and I took her drawing and I created this pattern. I wanted to see if I could create a pattern from scratch, and this is how it came out. If I can, I'm still new to YouTube and I'm still learning the technical side of inserting photos and videos and texts and all of that stuff. But if I can, I will try and figure out how to insert the original artist's picture of this guy, and then that way you can see what this compares to, the actual original art. So I made it so that his cap is removable and also his clothing, because my intent was to create other designs where he can wear different costumes. So this is him in his birthday suit, and he is actually He is actually my second bear. My first bear was this one, his female counterpart, and she's got cheeks. So I've got a honey bear, and well, with his clothes on, he was meant to be the bumblebee. And she too, her clothes come off. So I'm really happy and excited that I was able to create a pattern from scratch based on an illustration. I think this is maybe my second or third attempt to create a pattern from scratch based on an illustration. So hopefully one day I can come up with my own drawings, or maybe Nico can help me, hint hint.
Yes.
And we can start creating our own patterns based off of our own art designs. So we'll see. So in order to finish him, I had to weave in some ends. So on his muzzle, I didn't have any embroidery floss that would match his muzzle here. So I actually had to go out to Joann's and purchase that in order to finish him up. And then, yes, and then I had to sew on his antenna. So if you saw in last week's video, it was just kind of pinned in for the time being. So yep, that's my bee bear. So he took me an hour to finish and complete. My fourth finished object is this Animal Crossing player. This pattern is by Shea Crochet, SHEA Crochet XX. Her Etsy shop is Shea Crochet XX, I believe. Again, I will have it linked down below. But this is called the player. Okay, so to finish her off, I had to secure her hair down. It was, if you saw last week, I was able to pull this hair up, which made her look really weird, but I wanted to tack it down so you couldn't do that. And I don't know what's going on with her hair. I can't, she's got unruly hair. So I had to tack down her hair. I added this little bow and sewed on some buttons. So I had to actually go to the store and buy these buttons. I didn't have them on hand. Let's see. I secured down her collar because it was kind of flapping up. I didn't like that look. I also stitched on her mouth with some black embroidery floss. And she's supposed to have eyelashes. If you play Animal Crossing, which to be honest, I don't. But I did try a couple of times. They have this signature eyelash here in the corner. It's super cute. And I tried to do it with felt. That didn't quite work out. I tried doing it with embroidery floss.
She did this for several hours, and it took her several hours to realize that this is just not gonna work out.
It just wasn't coming out. It wasn't looking right. I tried with yarn and embroidery floss, and so I just took it off altogether. So she doesn't have that signature Animal Crossing eyelash, but I tried 3 times and failed, so I just gave up. I'll have to work on my maybe embroidery skills, my felt skills, I don't know, but maybe one day she'll grow some eyelashes. And it took me, Miko's saying that I took a couple of hours fiddling with this thing, but I'm gonna say it took me 1.5 hours to finish her, minus the fiddling with the eyelashes time. My 5th finished object is Scrump. She is from Lilo and Stitch, Disney Lilo and Stitch, and she is Lilo's little doll. And this is okay, I'll be honest. She's not really an unfinished object. She was finished at one point in time, but she is my daughter's doll, and she has been sleeping with her and putting her on display and playing with her and whatnot. But she's one of my first creations, and so I wasn't very good at sewing on attachments, and her bow came off, and so it had come undone, and I had to sew it back on. And she became part of my UFO stash because it was incomplete. I had to do something, and it was on my list of things to do, and that's pretty much what my UFO list is. So she got dumped into the UFO pile, but she is now complete. She waited maybe a couple of months to get repaired, but it's not going anywhere. I've gotten much better about attaching things on. When it came off, the little threads were like maybe this long. It was pretty sad. I don't know how I imagined that would stay on for dear life, but well, I learned. So she's complete. It took me all of 10 minutes to complete her. My poor daughter had to wait a couple of months for 10 minutes of work.
You couldn't have spent at least 10 minutes just working on that?
I've got things to do. I've got amigurumis to make.
You said your first priority was me, so I mean...
Always, baby, always. And that's the truth. My 6th finished object is this fairy, and she is quite big, actually. She measures, and I have a I have a tag on here to tell me what exactly I did with her. So she is the Mila doll, and the designer is Blue Bunny Crochet on Etsy. She measures 20.5 inches tall. So if you look, this is how big she is. She is one of my biggest dolls that I have ever made, if not the biggest. And let's see. To finish her, I had to sew down her hair. So her hair, and I don't know if everybody else does this. Please let me know in the comments down below what you do with your hair. Do you, because each strand is crocheted. They're individual like this. But I actually sew each strand individually. I sew it down. And so it's not going anywhere on both sides. So I go down this side and I go down or up this side. But each strand is sewn down individually, just up until this portion, and then it's loose and I let it just flow like this. But the hair takes me forever. And I have some other dolls where I don't do the whole thing. I might tack it down maybe in the middle, at the top, and towards the bottom. But for this doll, for some reason, I decided to do the whole length of the strand up here, up on the head, crown of the head. And it took me days. I'm talking days to do this. And that was the longest process for me to finish this doll. So I had to sew down her hair. Let's see. Her wings were already crocheted, but I had to attach them. So let me show you the back. So it looks like that. There's a bottom portion there. Let me take out this little body tag, if you will, is just information to remind me of what hook size I use, what yarn I use, because I have really bad memory, and if I don't have notes, I will forget things. And I knew that she was going to go in a to-do later pile and sleep for a little bit before I picked her up again. So yeah, I put a little body tag on her. So I did her wings, her shoelaces. This is not part of the pattern, but I thought that it would be a cute idea to give her ballet shoes. So I did this lacing here and tied it in the back to give it the illusion that it's ballet shoes. And then her headband was already crocheted. I just needed to stitch it on here, so it's attached. And my daughter takes classes at this one community place, and they are doing a, what's it called?
Auction.
Yeah, they're doing a fundraising auction, and they had asked for donations, and I had emailed the coordinator for the auction to see if they would accept handmade dolls, and I gave her a picture of some of the past dolls that I have done to see if they would be interested in anything like that, and she said, sure, we'd love to have your donation. So she is actually going to be donated for their cause. So she is gonna have a forever home somewhere else. And they also teach ballet classes there, and so that's why I decided to give her ballet shoes. So hopefully she will generate lots and lots of money for that institution. And in order to finish her, I'll say I took a whole entire day. Whatever crochet time that I could muster for that day, it took me all of that time to finish her up. And I'm super happy with how she came out. She's super cute. My 7th finished object is, I call her Country Girl. The designer is from Lulu Compotine on Etsy, and I will have all the information down below. I forget what the name of the doll is, but I will have it in the description down below if you are interested. And in order to finish her up, I had to crochet. So if you looked in last week's video, she was bald. All she had was just her pink body and maybe this part, which was in a different color. I'll get to that in just a moment, but she was pretty much bald. So I had to crochet her hair and stitch it on. Let's take off her hat for a moment. So I did a hair wig cap, gave her some bangs, and again, I stitched each strand down. And then I also gave her some braids. And her hair is tied with jute, I think it's called. Jute or twine, I don't know. But I found this in my stash and I ended up using. And I love when amigurumis incorporate different textures, like fabric, for instance, ribbon, or in this case, jute, buttons, all just different supplies to embellish amigurumis, because I think it gives it class or a special added detail, something that's not crocheted. I think I just love that look. So yeah, when I see fabric on amigurumis, I'm really drawn towards it, and I'm more likely to purchase the pattern. But yeah, so let's see, I did her hair. I also had to crochet her hat. This is not part of the pattern. It's a part of another of Lulu Compotine's patterns, but I wanted to incorporate this. The original pattern for this doll had a beanie, and I didn't want to give her a beanie. I wanted to do something different. I already have another doll of this that has a beanie, and so I wanted to do something different. So I gave her a like sun hat, I guess you call it. But this is another pattern by Lulu Compotine. So I gave her that. And then this bodice part of her dress I originally had in green, and I wasn't happy with it. I chose it because I wanted to bring out this green in this fabric, but it just, against the pink and her skin tone, I put it together and I actually finished it, and I wasn't happy. And then I also decided on the color of the hat, and the green, it just clashed. And so I decided to go with this color. I wish I had gone with maybe like an off-white color or an ivory color to go better with her dress, but it's okay. It still turned out great, and I still love her. And so yeah, to finish her, I also took a whole day to finish her. Something about doll hairs take me a really long time. Again, I individually stitch each strand, and then there were a couple of things I had to crochet from scratch anyway, so yeah. Really super happy. Every time I finish a doll, I'm super happy. I mean, look at them. They're cute, right? My 8th finished object is this doll. She is my very first blonde doll. I have black hair dolls, brown hair dolls, even redheads. I did a blue hair doll. I did probably every hair color under the sun except for blonde. And I was like, why haven't I done this sooner? But I love how she came out. She is so cute. But before I get sidetracked, this pattern is also by Lulu Compotine on Etsy. And in order to finish her, she was pretty much finished. If you saw my video last week, she was pretty much done, but she had some real hair ties in here just to keep it intact. I didn't want her braids to go anywhere. And so I had to go to the store. I didn't have any coordinating ribbon in my stash, so I had to go to, I believe I got this from Hobby Lobby. Went to the store, brought my doll, and checked out different colors and widths of ribbon, and I decided on this one, and I love the way it turned out. Matches her dress and even her hat. And so yeah, it was just basically her ribbon, and her ponytails needed some trimming, but that was it. Her little purse was already complete, and so yeah, this is her. And to finish her, let's see, it took me all of 10 minutes to put on her hair bow and trim off the ends. So 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Like
Yes.
my scrump. It took you how long?
Yeah. Well, they got done, didn't they? And
Eventually.
so if you notice, this is the same hat that the last doll has. So yeah, I believe this is the pattern that came with this doll. They're two different dolls. This one is called the Lise doll, Lise, and I don't know her name. I will have everything down below. But this one is, if you look at their feet, they're different. So when you go looking for the pattern, if you go and look for the pattern, that's the difference. I believe these dolls are a little smaller than this one. This comes in two sizes, like a big sister and a little sister. And this one comes, I think, just one size. But yeah, their legs are a little different. So
It's only a little smaller. Her legs are like the size of that doll.
yeah, so Lise has long legs. Who doesn't like long legs? Okay, so for my last finished object, I did this one. And she is also by Lulu Compotine. Same pattern as this one. They're besties, best friends. But I So I did different. So she's a little blonde haired doll and a little black girl doll. I've been wanting to make black girl dolls because I don't remember what her name is, but she came out with a book just recently about my pretty brown girl or something. But there's a designer, and she also has a YouTube channel, by the way, and she is hilarious. You got to check her out. I will have it linked down below if I find it. But yeah, and she inspired me to want to make brown girl dolls, and so I did it with this pattern, and I love how she came out. And I gave her some, okay, so to finish her, I did her, so I sewed on her hair wig cap because it wasn't sewn on yet, so that takes time. Gave her her space pom-pom space buns, and let's see, I put on these buttons because again, I love these details where, you know, you add a little something that's different. Fabric, felt, buttons, ribbons, all that stuff. I love that stuff on Amigurumi dolls. And so, and I didn't have these buttons. I had to purchase them. And then her shoes. So it took me 4 hours to finish her up. And if you look at last week's video, there wasn't much to be done. But for some reason, her shoes took me forever. And the reason why is because I started off with 4-weight yarn, and I usually use 3.5 an e-hook, 3.5 millimeter hook to do my dolls. I vary it up. I change it up every so often, but for this particular doll, I used 4-weight yarn and an e-hook, 3.5 millimeters. And that's what I did. I started off doing with her shoes, and it was gray, and the shoe at the very bottom was pointy. It was like this, and I was like, what in the world is going on here? And I kept going and going, and I thought, it's gonna get better, and I was trying to smash it in, push it in, but it wasn't working. And I will try and insert a photo if I can figure it out somewhere on the screen here. But I didn't like it. It wasn't going away, and it wasn't working for me. So what I did was I went down a yarn size. So instead of a size 4 weight, I went with a lighter number 3 weight. And then I increased my hook size from a 3.5 to a 3.75, an F hook. And I did the same pattern, and it came out so much better. There's no pointiness at the bottom. I mean, this one has a little bit, but it wasn't like the last one. It was like a cone foot. Like she was on, I don't know, stilts or something. It was so weird. So I'm glad I experimented and figured out how to do this. And I actually did that with this pattern. This pattern, I also did the same thing. I started off with a size 4 yarn and my 3.5 hook. And the dress was turning out kind of stiff. Like there's no drape, if you will. There's no movement. And if you look at this doll, this one is a little bit on a stiffer side. This is size 4 weight yarn with a 3.5 hook. And it's kind of balloony, and I just let it go because that's how the design of the overall was. But so I kept it. But for this, the dress started coming out stiff again too. And I wanted to give her a little bit more softness, a little more drape. And so I did the same thing. I went down a yarn size to number 3 and up a hook size to 3.75 and used the same pattern, and it worked and it fit. And it gave it a much softer feel. I love the way it came out. yeah, I'm super happy. So I think that's what I'm gonna end up doing with clothing in particular for dolls. That seems to work for me. So yeah. And let's see. Yeah, so to finish her up, it took me 4 hours. Let's see. This pattern doll's name is Lucille, and she measures 14 inches tall. So these body tags, they work out like a charm for me and my memory. Yeah, and I use Premier Everyday Anti-Pill. I use 3.5 millimeter. So yeah, I'm starting to incorporate these little guys. I mean, it doesn't look good around her neck, but I could do it around her arm, but I didn't want a chance losing it, you know? But yeah, and she's got stripes underneath her overalls. So this is actually part of her body. It doesn't come off, but her overalls do come off and her shoes do come off. They're rather snug, so I actually have to kind of shove it on and twist it and samuji it on, but it gets on there. So yeah, this is my collection of dolls that I finished this week. So I did 9. I finished 9 out of 48 UFOs this week. I don't expect to get that many done next week because I think I attacked most of the ones that needed only a little bit here and a little bit there to get finished. There may be some other UFOs that only need maybe less than an hour to finish. I don't know. I haven't really looked at them in detail, but what I will say is when you leave UFOs unfinished and tossed to the side for years on end, some of these have been tossed aside for up to 3 years, some 2 years, 1 year, you know. And I haven't been taking very good notes as far as hook size and the yarns that I've been using. And over time, I've been putting the yarn balls away. So sometimes I don't know what yarn I used, what color I used, what hook size I used. So it's been a challenge for me to try and figure out how to pick up my hook again and continue where I left off. And so yeah, if you're gonna stash something away as a UFO for a time, you might want to put these little body tags with notes on them so that when you do pick them up, you'll know what to use and finish them off. So a little tip. I will try to link whatever I can and put all the information down below in case you are interested in any of these patterns. And if you have any questions for me, please list them down below. And I will see you next week. Until then, have a fun, crafty week. Bye.